Right guys, hope you're all well. We are finally back with some tips videos for you. The one I've been asked about, we are getting a bit late for it, but we've still got a month or so left of this sort of fishing, I would think. I do think pellets will slightly start to come into it again. Is maggot fishing. Now, we can do it in two parts in all fairness. I'm going to do another video next week about open water, but the one I've been asked about most is snake lakes, like maggot fishing. It's what I've been doing at Rookery all winter. Before that I used to go to tunnel and they're all, it's the same sort of principles apply to all of it. So I'm going to go into it. It is going to be quite in depth at times. I've got my whiteboard ready. I'll try and explain it all as simply as I can. It is simple, but there's lots of little tweaks. It's one of those things, everyone is going to be doing it. So I know in the winter you've got to draw on the fish, but you still want to be just those little extra things make all the difference with it. So first of all, like we do always do, why are we going to be doing it? Well, it's simple as it's simple. As soon as that water gets to a certain temperature, the fish maggots become the key bait. You have your little spell on pellets just before it gets really cold, and then as it starts to warm up, like in the next 2 or 3 weeks, pellets will start to play a little part again. But in the middle of winter, maggots are the bait, unless you're dobbing with bread and stuff. Again, another video to do. So bait from sort of the end of October to March, maggots are going to form the basis of all your attacks. Now, the first thing to go about is where in the peg we're going to fish in the depths. I know that's what I'm asked about a lot. What I want to try and get across is there's two different sorts of, even if we're fishing for just F1s, there's two different sorts of fish we're fishing for here. We're fishing for either the fish that are feeding or the fish that we're just trying to annoy and catch an odd one. So there's two ways about it. The different areas of the peg suit either way better. But we'll start off. This is just our basic snake lake. They're all different, and I can only do this as a sort of a rough thing because each venue is different. But basically you're going to have your near shelf, we'll say that's there, and then a far shelf here. So we'll look at, I'll use Rookery as an example because it's where I've been fishing. We've got probably 4 or 5 foot, 4 to 5 foot down that middle. Then it's going to start shallowing up. Like Rookery, you've then got like 11 metres, you've got 4 foot perhaps, and then 13 metres you've got 3 foot. In a perfect scenario, it's not always like that, and then it shallows up obviously right tight on the mudline. Generally got the same on the inside, so like 3 foot in the edge. It is quite deep in the edges there. The first places we're going to talk about is across. Those are going to be like 3 foot is the perfect depth. You can catch in 2.5 foot, especially if the venue's shallower and you've only got like Club Pool at Tunnel used to be a good example. It's only 3 foot down the middle, so 2 foot is the next step up, but 3 foot is perfect just where the water goes really clear. You can see down a long way. 3 foot they can't generally see that far up, so they're nice and comfortable there. Those fish are going to be there. Sunny day, you'll find some days they're in the 3 foot is better, sometimes the 5 foot is better. Simple as that, and it's simply because of the conditions. On a bright sunny day, even though it's cold, that water is warming up a lot quicker, so that is where the fish want to be. Now you've got two sort of starting areas you could fish in. The fish are either going to be up there or they're going to be at the bottom of the far shelf here. The water's clear, they're just as far away from you as they can be. Personally, like I say, it all depends on the venue. Generally, you read the conditions. Say if it's freezing cold, like starting in the bottom of the far shelf might be better. If it's got some sun on the water, I know it's not going to be boiling hot, but because it's the winter, simple as that. But they're more likely to be sat in that 3 foot, especially if you've got reeds and stuff. Reeds and 3 foot against the reeds or around 3 foot is the perfect scenario. In that case, I would start across there. The fish you're going to get across here, a lot of them are. This is what I'm going into. They're not the feeding fish. They're the fish that are just sat there. They're not coming to your bait. You're going to them. Like the out the hand line here, that is where they're coming to feed. So the rigs are going to be slightly different. But yeah, choose your things. On a really cold day, like Raven is a bit deeper. That's like 6 to 7 foot. And 4 foot, like up the shelf, can be a really good line on there. When 7 foot is going to be really cold in that bottom part of the water. 3 foot's going to be cold because it's too shallow on those really cold days. So moving up the shelf, your rigs have got to be. We'll go into rigs in a minute, but the rigs have got to be right because the shelf can be really steep, and it's about laying it in right. On that, like I'm saying, these up in this bit where you're just trying to annoy them. You're laying your rigging all the time, laying it past them. The shotting is going to be really light. Again, we'll go into that on rigs. Like here, you're more positive because it's where you're trying to make the most of a few feeding fish when they rock up. Like it's generally the last hour on that short line, but that could be at the bottom of the far shelf for the last couple of hours. They might not come short. It might be across. I say it's quite technical without being complicated. So that is the areas we're going to fish, ideally fish in. What you will find during the day, because unless you're on an absolute statful, you're not just going to fish 1 or 2 lines. My start employ personally, if I'm fishing in the deep water, I would fish the same amount of pole, plumb up that way, and I could tap maggots in on both and find out where they are. And then if this is better and then it dies up and I don't get a bite there, I would then put a section on, start there, and then I might have to do it again and follow them along. It's not saying this won't be good, but I might approach that differently if I'm not getting bites there. You can sort of gamble with it, and again we'll go into that when we get onto feeding. But the next thing we've got to talk about is, well, we'll just talk about bait quickly. Simply maggot. This does what it says on the tin. It's maggots. Personally, for me, red maggots all the way in the winter. They're just the right colour in the clear water. Whites are a bit too in your face. Once you've fed half a dozen, the fish don't want to sit over them. The reds stand out, but they're not as in your face. I know some people like to use a mix of red and white. Personally, for me, I find you can have them days where the fish are feeding a bit better and they might want to pick out one colour over the other, and it means they're swimming about and messing around and not just taking the bait that's like you're giving them too many choices, and then you can get liners where they're picking out and the right ones. So I always just reds, and then as the water colours up in the summer, whites are much better. Again, because they're more visible in the more coloured water. So bait-wise, it depends on if any snake lakes. You're generally not going to need a lot of bait. When I do the open water one, it's a bit different because those venues are different. There's a lot more silvers and stuff. It's been said if you're on a venue with lots of silvers, which is a snake lake, the ones here, our snake lakes are predominantly carp and F1s, but you can put a bit more bait in. So you're probably only going to want, you could do it with a pint of maggots, quite easy. I always take 3 or 4 pints. Simply, there's those odd red letter days, I don't want to run short of bait. I'd rather spend an extra tenner than cost myself winning 100 quid because I haven't got enough bait. And all I do with them is bag them up and put them in the freezer. You're going to have plenty left like that 9 times out of 10. Just while I'm not spending a lot on bait in the winter, then I'm stocking up the freezer with some dead maggots ready for the summer. So it's about leveling it out through the year as well. Other baits, pinkies, always take like a quarter of a pint. My local shop just gives me a handful. They don't charge me for it. I literally want a few for the hook, and they are. I don't really feed them. Bad odd days at tunnel where tapping in pinkies when it's that hard as work, but I'd much rather feed the maggots. Make much better noise. but a maggot and a pinky on the hook, just a red maggot and a fluoro tip with a fluoro pinky is probably my go-to bait. There's odd days when a single maggot is better. There's odd days double pinky is better. There's odd days when there's silver or it's fishing well. Double maggot and even triple maggot can work well. But my starting bait would always be a maggot and a fluoro pinky. Just stands out. It just gives it a little bit of extra standout among your feed, just something to home in on. Other baits is ground bait. Ground bait is massive. You're not feeding a lot of it. Like when I say not a lot, you're feeding tiny little marbles. But it's amazing the response it can get, especially as you start chasing them around. It just, when you're running out of room, it just brings that extra bite or two in. There's odd days when they come off bottom and you can't catch them shallow. Again, we'll go into that in a bit, the shallow, and you need to take them down, and just that bit of bait, that little hard ball takes them back down, makes them easier to hook. Ground bait choice for me is simply 50-50 or 60-40. Milled expanders, which is like the finest of the range, top really fine, and a bit of F1 dart, like 30 or 40% F1 dart, just to darken it off, add a bit of flavour. When we get to rock bottom, like January, February, when the water is the coldest it's going to be, just milled expander. If I'm expecting it to be really hard, just milled expander. I've just put a bit of the F1 liquid in it, just to give it that bit of flavour. While we're on the subject of flavour, F1 booster spray. I always spray my maggots. Like if I get 3 pints, I give it 15. I'll give 5 squirts per pint. Always do that when I get to my peg. Like I say, everyone is feeding maggots. That's generally the only bait that's going in for the 3 or 4 months. If I can make mine stand out a little bit, it's all the better. Maybe it doesn't make any difference, but it's a confidence thing. Always do it. Always keep a bottle of that with me. That is bait. So on to rigs. We've basically got 2 choices. That we're doing the same thing with them all. It's just the tips, the different tips. Got the rig tray here. This is literally all my winter rigs. We've got 2 choices. Just on the quick subject of floats, you'll see these are Malmans. I'm no longer with DS floats. It's nothing, not had a fallout or anything. Just there's plans underway elsewhere. So I'm not with someone at the moment. I can't really say a lot. And I never got all my winter stuff changed over to them. So I'm still on my Malmans that I was using. It's all about tip choice. For maggots, we're going to be using carbon stems, as I say, so we can hold the rig through the water. Wires do play a part when it's windy. We'll go into what to do on a windy day in a little bit. We've certainly had enough of that recently, especially out here, windiest part of the world on the fens. So it's all about tip choices. So these are the bog standard, the dusty carbons, 1.5mm hollow tip. Carry them in 410s, 412s, 414s. These are my go-to if the fishing's all right, or if we've got some tow on the water. It's just that bit, just holds the float up a little bit. You've got that little bit of buoyancy in the tip. On those stiller days, we don't want the buoyancy in the tip. We want to register every little bit of bites from silver, not silver, but silvers, but like F1s especially, not quite as much. So delicate at times. It's just a little wobble on the float, and for that I just changed to the Malman's Secrets. These are hollow. These are solid tips. So like this, there's no buoyancy in it at all. They're harder to shot, but they are as sensitive as you're going to get. They are hard to see though, like a 1.2 solid tip. The best tip I can give you for it, get yourself some Sensus float paint, give it a good shake, give them a good cover, and if you can see that, it thickens them up. It doesn't look pretty, it's a bit clumpy and stuff, but they're so easy to see, and it's still completely solid. There's not the buoyancy, there's no air inside, so they are in the stiller conditions when the bites are really hard to tell. That's when there's no ripple and stuff, and you've got nothing to help like the fish to pull against. Definitely those. They're the way to go. Carry them again. 410s, 412s, 414s. They are a bit lighter because they're. I think it's because they're even slimmer than the Dusties. They do take a little bit less shot. So like a 414 is in between a 412 and a 414, which again plays to your advantage because you want that slightly lighter rig. Getting on to, they're all my winter rigs are made on 015. I don't see the point for anything else. I suspect you've got the. It's not because the fish see it or anything like that. It's just because it's often windier and stuff, and it's just a bit less resistance. It's a bit thinner. It's like when you're long distance casting, you use thinner line than you would do if you were chucking 20 meters. It's just for the drag. The wind's not dragging it back. You get better presentation. Always, like I say, 015 or 016 or 014, 016, around that area. Onto hook lengths. Again, depends on your venue. Let me put these to the side now. Depends on the venue. Generally, where I've been fishing at Rookery, we're catching carp and stuff, and F1s, so it's a mix. It's normally like I use fluorocarbon. I use Colmic fluorocarbon for all my winter hook lengths. Big believer in fluoro. And their sizes are, the three sizes I use are 010, 011.5 and 012.8. So it's like 010, 011.5, 013 basically. I find most of my stuff is the 011.5. Do step down to 010 at decoy for fishing for roach and stuff on beastie. And if I was just fishing, again, go like tunnel or somewhere just for F1, mainly F1s, it was 010, always 010 there. The 013 I match up with slightly heavier hooks. We'll go into hooks next. Just because it's there for fishing, if I'm just fishing for carp, so if I was on the strips at decoy for the big carp, or if I'm fishing against like on magpie where I've got some snags, I've got to pull them away a little bit. It's just that little bit stronger, but you're not going to get broke on this stuff in the winter. The metabolism slowed down, so they're not pulling as hard. You've got nice light elastics. On the subject of elastics, I shouldn't use 2 all winter, depending on what I'm doing. For Rookery, where we're catching lots of the decent carp and F1s, I use 10 to 12 slick for a short kit. Short kits are much better. If I was at tunnel or doing just F1 fishing, any proper F1 venues, I just fish the 8 to 10 in a short kit, just because they pull even less. Do use long kits, same elastics in long kits for like open water, but we don't do that as a separate video. We're talking about slow nights. I'd always use short kits. It's just so easy. They're not deep. If it is a bit deeper, like Raven is at Rookery, and you can't get it on a top kit, I'd rather have a short kit and a short 4 on, just because of the stiffness, and it's the right amount of elastic. You're not playing them forever. Onto hooks and hook lamps. Like I say, I've gone over the things. Use 4 different hooks for winter fishing. We'll start at the heavy end with the 01228, or I'll call it 013, it'd be easier. I use MXC 1s. They're like a medium gauge hook, in an 18. It's the only hook I use for maggot fishing in them. Moving down to the next one in the range of the Matrix is the MXC5, which are really lightweight. They would be my go-to for just F1 fishing. I found I needed a hook in between the two though at Rookery this year. The MXC5s were a little bit light, MXC1s were a bit too heavy. Gone back to my old faithfuls, what I used to use, the Preston SFLBs. Again, an 18 is just my go-to. Perfect for a maggot and a pinky. You can get away with a single maggot on it, get away with double maggot on it. Just means not having lots of hooks tied up. Final hook is for if it's rock hard and I'm fishing just for roach and stuff. I use, these are always on 010, is a Guru F1 maggot. They're ultra fine. I use them, let's say, for roaching and for really scratching out just an odd bite or two. Now, we will go into, before I go on to like shotting and stuff, I've mentioned this before, but never gone into depth about it because we haven't done the winter. I like in the winter to have my dropper shot on my hook length. And there's a simple reason for this. Well, I've always done it, and I know I've watched videos since then with Jamie and people like that, and they do the same. Same thinking behind it that I had all those years ago, and it's never done me any wrong. Don't be concerned that you're weakening your hook length. I've never had one break on a shot. Like I say, the fish aren't pulling mega hard. And all it is simply, look, here's my hook length, there's the loop, and then you have a loop up to your rig. There's your one down to your hook. All it is them bites are so timid in the winter that I feel if you have your last shot there, there can be that, you know what I mean, with your loops sort of open up and there's a bit of movement now. I don't want that, so I have my shot here and it just takes that movement out. It just means I can't stress how like the tiniest little wobble can be a big F1. They're so timid, and it's just about putting everything in my favour to see them bites. So all mine, and I carry each of those hooks I've just said about. I already tie them up, I already have the shot on, just so I'm not fiddling around with cold hands in the winter. I have them tied up with a number 12 on, and I have the same ones tied up with a number 10 on, which is getting on to what I like the different ways of the different rigs we're going to have for the two types of the same fish. Again, I hope that comes across. Now, those fish across that, we'll get back to this. The fish across the far side and the bottom of the far shelf, those ones that are just sulking there, they're not feeding when the water's cold. We want to be laying the rig past them just regularly. That is where the number 12, I would have 2 number 12 droppers on. It's just so it falls as slowly past them as it can. I'm just increasing my chance of getting a bite and literally laying in every 20 seconds. Just, you're almost dobbing them. You're feeding next to nothing, like literally 6 maggots, 4 maggots, like tunnel 2 maggots. Just regularly dropping a tiny bit of bait in, making the slightest bit of noise and just trying to annoy them. So that's when that comes into its own. So across I would always have like the number 12 droppers. I would always have a rig for the bottom of the far shelf with those. I would also have one with number 10 droppers for across. Generally, like a rookery, I can use the same rig I would fish short with, which would have the number 10 dropper, just because when they rock up there, they're feeding fish, like in the summer where they come down their edge, they're feeding. So you can be that little bit more positive with that. Sometimes, let's say, they might not come short, but they're going to be that far shelf. So giving myself both options with the rig. I know it sounds stupid, 2 number 12 droppers as opposed to 2 number 10s, but the rig acts so differently. It's just so more positive. You're getting the bait down to the fish quicker. You're not wasting time. If there's a load of fish in the peg and you've got the 12s on, it gets blown around and you start foul hooking them. It does make a massive difference. So you want those 2 rigs. For a cross, a nice light rig. I can always, if I'm in free foot, in the deep water, shotting choice is always just a bulk and 2 droppers. For a cross, I like there's the float, there's the bottom. I like strong shot, but like a strong bulk down the second half of the rig, unless it's flat calm, and then I space the shot out just so I can lay it right past them. But find if you've got the touch of toe on it, you spend so long getting your rig sitting, you're actually being counterproductive. Yes, you want it falling past them, but if you're not seeing your bites because the float was going everywhere, it doesn't help. I can always say, if the fishing is good across, say setting up another rig, I can just have a bulk and 1 dropper, bulk everything up and 1 dropper to really get it down to them quick, or just a bulk. But those days are few and far between. Float sizes, For a cross, perfect conditions 4x10. If it's a bit more blustery, a 4x12. Deep water, that short line 4x14. Again, if fishing is good, 4x14 across. If it's not so good, with the number 12 droppers and the weather is all right for it, I'd rather have a 4x12. Again, it's just so that the bait goes past them that bit more slowly. A bit confusing there. Probably, if you've got any questions about it, just ask. But that is basically the rigs. Where are we going from that? Right, so as I've said, we'll get on to actually. Let me give this a wipe, have a swig of coffee. Starting point, again, depends on your venue. That's the bottom of the fast shelf. Ideally, I would like to start at the bottom of the fast shelf. I'd just start straight in front of me to start with. Then as soon as I start getting, you won't catch, like I say, if you do catch, you're not going to catch on one line for very long in the winter because it's clear. You catch a couple, they spook. And then I would start off both lines just with the same toss, but you're only putting 6-8 maggots in generally, unless the fishing is really good. So put 12 in, count them out, ship out, and you can literally tap them and count them 6 on each, and just keep swapping between the two and see which is better, and then getting ready to chase them off. All the while, I feed that short line from the start. You can drop in on it and have a little run after an hour or two. It's only a couple of quick fish and then you're generally better. And then I'd move across it again. Don't be afraid to start moving about. I'd always start in front. If you hook a fish, what you want to do is when you hook a fish, if you hook a fish and it swims off that way, that is the first way to go. Like when you have to move, when you stop getting bites. Simply because that fish you've hooked is going back towards the main shoal. That's a great tip. I think I've said it to you before anyway, but that's a great guide. It doesn't always work, but that is the great way to. It's just gives you a heads up on which way you think you should go next. If you're not catching, which you can have days like that in the winter, and you see a fish top somewhere, plumb up there and tap some bait in. That can be really, really good. Again, leaving areas. I know I can't really, unless we're on the bank, it's probably seeming a bit strange. But again, if I think there's some fish off here, like I've seen a couple top, and I am catching an odd one. We say 2 hours to go at Rookery. This is on J especially. I'd put 20 maggots in a big cup, plumb up a line, get it ready. 20 maggots in a big cup and one of them little balls of ground bait I've been saying about, put it there, and then I could go on it and start kindling the last hour, and that you can have a brilliant run. I had one of the earlier rounds on there in the Winter League. I went on that with an hour to go and I've had like 8 carp, all proper ones. It was really good. I just primed it ready for that time of the day when they were feeding. It's about setting traps and getting ready, chasing them around, then setting yourself up for a good couple of last hours. Again, if it's mild, pinging maggots can work. Again, it's been something that's good for me. Pinging maggots have been really good this year. Just still not feeding next to nothing, but they make more of a noise pinging them. They're travelling further at more speed, hitting the water, making a bit more noise. And again, once a line's died, pinging a few maggots on it can just bring it. It's all about just nicking those extra few fish. Again, I say this is where this could come in. If I moved this way and I haven't caught, but I still think there's some fish up here, they're just not the main shoal of them, I could then start pinging some maggots into this area, and again I can go on it and hopefully catch a few late on. It might not work, but I'm not ruining anything by being a bit more positive with it, because I'm not catching anything in that part of the swim anyway. It's not to say they're not in that area, they could be just hanging off here, but the main shoal is that way. But I could draw them ones in by pinging a bit of bait. The final area of the swim we haven't touched on is the margins. Now on these snake lakes, you can have the same depth across down here, and like there might be some cover. Don't think that margins are just for a summer thing. Don't fish it on a top kit next to you, because that's generally not very good. the water's clear. But definitely fishing down to the next platform, not tight in, finding that 3 foot again can be good. Again, I like to prime that one if I can with just a 20 maggots or so and a bit of ground. Again, that's setting yourself up for later in the day, but it can be decent. Just trying a line somewhere if you've got any cover, just tapping in some maggots there. Have a good search around plumbing up. Know your depths of your peg before you start. And that is pretty much, there's been quite a bit to take in there, but I hope it is. If you want me to cover some more of it, because I'm sure I have missed a bit out of it, it is dead simple. It's just about chasing around and like I say, setting yourself up for when they do feed. That last 2 hours is generally your best, or last hour, and they're not always going to come short. That's the perfect place for them to come, because they're easy to catch. You can read the float really well, you can feed it by hand. If they do come there, the thing is, again, you can get quite a few fish there when they do want to feed later on. Just like with meat and stuff, when you hook a fish, then is your time to double throw 8 maggots, 2 lots of 8 maggots. You can be a bit more aggressive with that, because they're either going to be there and feeding, or they're not there. They're not just going to be sat there. They're coming there to feed and nothing else. So you can be quite a bit more aggressive with that. But yeah, once you start catching them, make sure you feed when the rig's not in the water. Maggots take a long while to sink. It's just so you can, by the time you've netted the fish, you can then go out, lay your rig in, the maggots on the bottom, the fish are there again instead of coming up. We're talking about coming up. You can get, even when you're just kindling a few, and especially if you the catapulting, they do sometimes come off bottom. Just a little 0.1 rig. I've got, they're down there on the floor. Just some, they are the DS, the excess carbons. Just a 0.1 with literally 3 or 4 number 12s down the line. You want to have a bulk of 2. It looks really weird, but a bulk of 2. If you say if you're fishing in 4 foot of water and we're not fishing really shallow, we'd set the rig at like 3 foot and keep laying it in. But you want to have a bulk about a foot of 2 or 3 of the shot, a foot below your float. Them floats are so tiny, you need to cock them up. Otherwise it takes forever. The float doesn't pull through the tension of the water. And then have just a couple of shot down the line beneath that. Can be good for really big F1s. They do come up, especially on a bright day. It's just a bit warmer for them. You'll know when to do it. You'll start getting quite a lot of liners. I think that's all of that covered. Windy days. That is the other thing we need to talk about. On a windy day, we've had a lot of it recently. Like, you can't fish across here. You can't get the presentation. This is when these areas, because you're not feeding across, and there's a lot more cover on the water from the wind, the edges become your cross line. Like, you can generally hold 10 metres, 11 metres, get to the bottom of the fast shelf, so they're going to be your 2 main lines in all honesty. Again, that short line generally works better when it's really windy, because they're just more confident to come in there. If you can hold your rig across, like Ivan Marks used to say to me, he helped me out loads when I was a kid, there's no point looking pretty if you're not catching anything, and that definitely applies with your rigs on a windy day. Generally that short line down the edge, you can get away with the carbon still. You're close, plenty of back shot, you're in control. That far one where you're getting a lot more wind, stepping up to the wire ones, just use a 414 wire there, just because it's more stable. The wire makes the float heavier. It would always be number 10 droppers with that, just so it settles, no messing around. And the same for that's for your across. If you can get right across, like, it is really breezy, but you can hold your pole all right. Wire stems across there as well, 414. It looks crude. A bulk and 1 dropper, and then I've changed to my pellet hooks again. I like one. my pellet ones in the winter. I have a number 9 dropper on milk lamps. Don't know if you can see that. Again, if I'm fishing for I can bring it right close if there's loads of stockies or something, which is why I'll generally be using pellets in the winter. But yeah, just a bulk of number 8s and one number 9 dropper. Very, very crude, but it does sit there. And you could lay a rig in loads and you won't catch anything because it's blown around everywhere. Just drop that in, hold it there solid, and that's the way to get a few bites. By far, I've had days when I've had both set up, and on those windy days, that heavier one is by far the best. Just because you get some, you might only get 30 seconds of it sitting right, but you wouldn't have got any seconds of the other one sitting right. It's just about giving yourself that chance of getting that odd bite on it. I don't actually think there's a lot more to cover. If I have missed something, if there's something I've not explained right, just drop me a message. But I think that is pretty much it. It's all done with, let's say, it's all my feeding on them further lines are generally toss spot unless I get a capo out. Little tip I can give is I don't, even though I'm putting not a lot in, I like the medium sized ones. Just so you can count them out a bit better out of it. The medium sized ones, where are they? Medium toss pots. Always with a sprinkle lid. Just pull it to the side and put your maggots in. You could fill it up if it's a day when they're reacting to noise. You can fill it right up and just keep tapping a couple on. Don't tip it all in one go. And when you fill it up, once it's got the maggots in, your hook's baited, drop your pole top in the water, cover that with all water, and the maggots then stick to the sides so that you're not losing them when you ship out. You don't want odd ones falling out everywhere. When you're only feeding 3 or 4 on a spot, if you drop 2 or 3 out somewhere else, that's potentially starting a new line that you're never going to fish, so you don't want to be doing that. So that's another little tip. And I think that is it. I would never really, unless I'm priming an edge or something, I'd never feed the ground bait straight away. I would save that till a line's starting to die, and then I could try it. And I think that's about it, guys. If I have missed anything, let me know. I'm out at Rookery on Sunday, last round of the individual league. I will get a video done about that on Monday for you. Have a great weekend, guys. Catch plenty of fish. Cheers.